The woman in the sketches without a face is known as Jane, and she's telling the jury in Sean Combs' trial about hotel nights, her love contract with the rap mogul, and sex she had with male escorts to please him. Plus, we're hearing audio messages that Sean Combs sent to Jane.
You better get on your job. That's really, that's all it is.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Jane has now spent 3 days on the stand in Sean Combs' racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking trial. Jane is not the witness's real name, of course. She's being allowed to testify under a pseudonym, and Judge Subramanian has made it clear there will be consequences if people in the courtroom, journalists and creators, reveal her true identity. Now, Jane has often become emotional, crying as she explained how she loved Sean Combs and wanted to make her partner, that's what she called him, happy. She said she only wanted to have sex with Sean Combs, but that's not what happened. And at first, she felt their relationship was great. He love-bombed her. But things changed. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges he faces, and his attorneys have said he has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone. Jane's testimony began with Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey showing the jury her driver's license to show them her real name. Jane was then asked what she called Sean Combs, and she responded, Sean, baby, Ernie, Snookums. Comey asked Jane about the term Ernie. She said it sounded like Sesame Street, and Jane said yes. So she was Bert to Combs' Ernie. Jane said she first met Combs on a girls' trip to Miami in late 2020. One of her friends was actually seeing Combs at the time. Jane said he was very nice and hospitable, and she felt drawn to him instantly. She told the jury they ran into each other on his yacht when both of them went to the restroom, and he said, hey, take down my number and let me get your number. That's when the Bert and Ernie nicknames were born. Jane told a story about one of the women on the girls' trip wanting drugs and Sean Combs producing a pink powder. She asked if it was safe, and he said, of course it was, and it was the best. After that trip in November of 2020, Jane said that Sean Combs started pursuing her via text messages. Jane's girlfriend was seeing another man at the time, so she felt more open to seeing Sean Combs. In late January 2021, Jane said she was going to be in Miami, so she agreed to see Sean Combs. She said they had dinner on her hotel balcony, and she said their first date lasted 5 days. Jane said she was open with Sean Combs, that she knew that the father of her child and Combs did not like one another, but she said Combs didn't care about that, and it was okay with him. Now, this first date, she said, lasted 5 days, as I mentioned, and Jane said they made lots of love that first night. They walked on the beach the next day and went to dinner the next night, and by the time she left Miami, she was head over heels in love with Sean Combs. The following month, Jane said she and Sean Combs went to the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Jane testified, I remember so many lovely things. It was just really us. And so we just had a lot of connection and a lot of time together. As you would assume, just really passionate about one another, lots of attraction. It was very lust-filled. Comey asked, were you getting a lot of alone time with Sean? Jane responded, yes. Jane really loved that trip. And it was during this trip that Jane said she used ecstasy with Sean Combs, and he was the person who determined how much she took. Jane said the first time she used the ecstasy, she fell on the sand and started throwing it around. And so Christina Coram, who's known as KK, and a butler, put her in a shower to calm her senses. Now, the government, you will recall, calls KK a co-conspirator to Sean Combs. Coram has denied wrongdoing. I spoke with Mel Smith, a YouTuber, about Coram coming up in testimony.
You know, I was sitting in court and I was thinking about her because today, when Jane Doe came in and gave her testimony, she started to paint the same picture that Cassie, Capricorn, Clark, Mia, that there's these rooms being set up. And today, Jane Doe says that KK, Christina Coram, she was the individual that was helping to set up the room. So this is a real problem because it's showing that perhaps his employees or part of this enterprise, that they were more involved than meets the eye.
So Mel will be joining us here in just a minute. Maureen Comey then asked Jane whether Combs had ever given her any gifts. Jane testified, I remember it was actually when I first met him in Miami, that first trip. He had given me a love bracelet that said LOVE on it. So I got that pretty early on. And oh, at the end of the trip, I do remember he said that he was going to send me some money and that he knew that he had taken me out for many days. And I really appreciated that gesture because it was many days away. Lately, I've been seeing some really amazing makeup trends on social media, but no matter the trend, I feel like there's always that one brand you come back to. And for me, it's Thrive Cosmetics. And honestly, I'm so excited that they're sponsoring Crime Fix because I've been using it for a while now. Thrive makes 100% cruelty-free products that are clean, high performance, and made to last from everyday basics to bold, expressive looks. And what I really love about Thrive, they give back. For every product you buy, they donate to communities in need, from women facing cancer or homelessness to survivors of abuse. They've donated over $150 million so far. Can you believe that? The first time I tried Thrive's Brilliant Eye Brighteners, I told myself I would never go back to using other eyeshadow products. They go on so smoothly and they don't flake off. Right now, Muna and Sophia are my favorite shades. Discover your new trusty favorite from Thrive Cosmetics that's luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/crimefix. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/crimefix for 20% off your first order. Jane testified that Sean Combs offered to wire her $10,000 because she had been away for so long and unable to do her job on social media promoting products. And he did wire that money to her bank account. Then Sean Combs, according to Jane, introduced hotel nights when a male sex worker would have sex with Jane. Now, these were similar to the freak-offs Cassie participated in with Combs and male sex workers. Jane said the hotel room was decked out with red lights and there was a lot of baby oil involved. Jane would wear stripper heels the entire time. There was a lot of baby oil and she wore lingerie. And of course, Jane said there were drugs involved, particularly ecstasy or Molly. Jane said the first hotel night, or debauchery, that's what they called them too, happened in May of 2021. Jane said they hired a man named Don from Cowboys and Angels. She was wearing stripper heels, lingerie, and a robe. And Jane said she was high. Jane said Don wore a condom when they had sex, despite Sean Combs really not wanting that to happen. Jane said the hotel night was taboo. It was sexy, crazy, and fun. It was something she had never done before. She said she didn't think they'd do it again. But that night, she said opened a Pandora's box in the relationship, and it opened a door she couldn't shut. The frequency of the hotel nights increased over time. Jane said she would always take drugs during the hotel nights where she had sex with male escorts, sometimes more than one escort in one night. The drugs, like ecstasy, made the hotel nights more palatable. Male porn stars were hired to take part and flown to cities and paid between $2,000 and $4,000 per session. But Jane said some of these hotel nights would last for 24 hours, sometimes longer than that. She testified that she had to hold poses for an extended period of time, sitting on the edge of a bed. She started suffering from back and shoulder pain. And she started getting urinary tract and yeast infections practically every week. Jane said Sean Combs flew her from her home in California to Miami for hotel nights and to other cities. But really, she said she wanted to spend time with Sean Combs alone. Jane said that Combs told her from the beginning that he was seeing other women and that this was not going to be an exclusive relationship. But she really liked him, so she was monogamous when it came to him. In November of 2021, Combs left an audio message for Jane. She would sometimes become upset after seeing him with other women.
Yeah, that's my friend. I'm in Miami. I don't have a lot of friends out here, okay? She asked me if she could work out with me. I said, okay. You got to believe what you want. This is the last time you're going to be cursing at me, disrespecting me over nothing. Like I'm a human being. I'm not going to lock myself up in a room and have no friends. I don't have a bunch of guy friends. I already told you that. And she just came over to work out. But I'm not going to be explaining It don't matter if I just got finished the other day. I'm single. I could do whatever the I want to, but I didn't. You're straight flipping out on me. And I told you that you had one more time to do this. Flipping out on me because somebody came to work out with me at my house. You're nuts. So be sad, go crazy, do whatever the you want to do. Okay, I don't deserve you. I don't deserve being honest with somebody. And then every time they see somebody around, they like, I'm doing something. I'm working out.
There was another audio message around the same time that Combs sent to Jane.
Girl, I done sent you flowers already. Ain't nobody talk about that in the past? That's what I'm talking about. You don't know how to just move on. How can somebody like have a relationship with you even as a friend and you don't know how to move on? You go to like it just goes crazy. Just stop. I'm saying let's move on. And my tone is like this. I'm just waking up.
Now, back to some of the stuff that Jane said Sean Combs wanted her to do. She said that Combs wanted her to get her nipples pierced, so she did it. She kept the piercings for about a year and then got rid of them because they became infected and they snagged on her lingerie. Jane said she started writing a diary of sorts in her notes app on her phone. In one from 2022, she wrote, "I don't know why you're calling me, but I'm sorry I don't want to do drugs for days and days and have you use me to fulfill your freaky wild desires in hotel rooms." Jane said she wrote this because she didn't have the courage to send it to Sean Combs. There was another time where Sean Combs wrote to Jane after she didn't want to do hotel nights. The testimony states that he wrote, "Let's not do anything anymore. Sorry, tired of you throwing sex in my face. Whack. I can't handle you comparing yourself with another woman. That's why I lie in the first place. So let's just be friends." Jane said that she felt her body was kind of shutting down on her. She said she'd been performing these hotel nights nonstop for 2.5 years. By the summer of 2023, she had gotten these urinary tract infections. She told Combs she wasn't a liar, a cheater, or a sex robot. Apparently, at one point, he told her to take an Adderall, which is a stimulant. Jane said Combs wanted her to make an all-star night happen. Jane said an all-star party was a fantasy for Combs where she'd invite the top 3 or 4 men they liked for a hotel night. But Jane said she wasn't feeling up to doing it. But she was on her period once, and she was tired. She even sent a photo to Sean Combs to prove that she was on her period. Jane said she sent the photo to Combs after he accused her of lying because he had claimed she'd been on her period so many times before. Here's an audio message that Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey played for the jury. She said that Combs sent it to Jane in August of 2023.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know. You think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence. And ain't nobody threatening you, and I ain't trying to go back and forth with no woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I ain't got no time for no games. Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you can be mad, I can have a spat, we can have whatever. Then after that, you better get on your job. That's really, that's all it is. Cause you got me on my job. Nah, it ain't never gonna work like that over here. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to leave this message, but you have left me no choice. So either you go in the direction of like moving on and like that, or you like just like have me just keep moving. Ain't no threat. I'm just being clear. I can't do with you every time you get upset.
Now, Comey questioned Jane about that audio message and what she thought it meant. Jane testified, I understood that he had certain expectations of me and that I had to fulfill them. Comey followed up by asking, what was your understanding of those expectations? Jane responded, taking care of him, being good to him, and just making sure that he's happy. Comey asked, what did that include? Jane said it included these nights. Comey asked, and what did you understand Sean meant when he said he had been on my job, on his job? Jane said, I understood that he meant he felt that he was taking care of me financially. Jane said she responded, I've been on my job for 2.5 years. You just got on your job. I'm not one to threaten. We can call this even and move on. So I want to bring in Mel Smith. He has been in the courtroom the entire trial. He is watching this. He has a bird's eye view of Jane and the jury. He is the host of the Watching the World YouTube channel. He's also on TikTok. Check him out. He's got it all covered. Mel, how is the jury reacting to Jane's testimony so far this morning?
They're paying close attention to everything that she's saying because she's telling a story that's beyond compare when it comes to this case.
What has Jane said this morning? We know that from the reporting that's coming out of the courtroom that Jane said that Sean Combs wanted her to send bad girl texts. So talk to us a little bit about that. Explain to us what that meant and what's been going on this morning.
Yeah, he basically wanted her to send some explicit video, pictures, what have you, in regards to herself. And she painted a picture that he wanted to do this because he's with another female and he needs pictures of her in order to be stimulated. But also,
Okay.
there's the second part to your question I wanted to answer. On Friday, they framed that today would be basically discussing fraud. The defense basically stood up and said, Your Honor, in this particular case, he's telling the client, I want to come and spend time with you. And then when she shows up, she flies all the way to New York. There's a sex worker there. And this is how they're trying to prove fraud in regards to this case that he defrauded her.
So is the defense saying that doesn't meet the bar for fraud, like fibbing, like saying, and transporting her, across state lines and things like that? Are they saying, is the defense saying that doesn't mean this is fraud?
What the defense was trying to do is prevent two exhibits, 331, from being put into the trial, because these two exhibits, which were approved because they came out today, right before I came out to speak with you, these exhibits show her personal notes. And in these personal notes, she's calling Sean Puffy Combs a pathological liar. So this goes towards her frame of mind, and they're framing it that he was basically lying to her, defrauding her in order to get all of these acts out of her by not being honest.
Interesting. So obviously the government says that's fraud. And the defense is probably going to say that's not fraud.
Right. That's what they're trying to say. But remember, count two is sex trafficking with fraud, force, and coercion. So they've checked the box for force, they've checked the box for coercion, and now they're trying to check that third box for fraud.
Right. So let's go back to what you mentioned earlier, that Sean Combs, according to Jane, wanted her to send bad girl texts because he was with another woman and he wanted to be stimulated. Did that set Jane off a little bit? Because he had told her in the beginning of the relationship that, yes, he was seeing other women. This would not be an exclusive relationship, but that seemed to upset her when she would find out he was hanging out with other women. She wanted to spend quality time with him, and she just, it seems like, became this hotel night woman partner of his. That was what she was doing with him. There was no alone time after a certain point in the relationship. So what was her reaction to him wanting these bad girl texts?
When I tell you she's crying in court and she lets out these loud cries, it really shakes everybody, including the jury, to the core, because you can tell that this is a woman that is really hurt and she's really concerned about her life and her family. She speaks about her child. So these things are very important to her, and she's brokenhearted. You can tell by the way she expresses herself.
Talk to me about this recorded phone call that the jury has now heard between Jane and Sean Combs. We've heard the audio messages. Let's talk about this recorded phone call.
Well, in the recorded phone call, basically Sean Puffy Combs is telling her, basically, we did this together. You made a commitment here. You consented is the actual words that were used. So he's trying to, in the statement, it's almost as if he knows that he's being recorded of some sort, and he's trying to build a narrative to show that she was also willing to behave this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the quote I'm seeing here is, I really can't talk on this phone. And then he said, of the hotel nights, it's just some kinky S word that I thought we both, what I'm saying, enjoyed. I need you to be there for me. And Jane said, who's there for me when I close my eyes and I have these effed up things in my head? So she was telling him she didn't want to do the hotel nights anymore, but he wanted them. And in that one audio recording, Mel, he said to her, the audio message, in 2023, get on your job. What was the jury's reaction to that?
They were quite shocked to see that type of relationship, because all of the text messages, even that we've heard today, they basically are saying where she's being forced to do these things. He's having her do all of these events with these strange men, and she does not want any part of it. And she's explaining that to him time and time again, how it makes her feel, and it's really tearing her apart.
What did she say about any physical violence? Because obviously we saw with Cassie, there was a lot of physical violence. What has Jane said about that?
We have not heard anything about physical violence. I think that's going to be this afternoon. We'll get into that part. That's what the rumor mill is in the courthouse.
And what is Jane's demeanor? I know that we're not going to reveal her identity, obviously, but you're saying there's a lot of crying and wailing. What are you perceiving from her?
I see her as being very soft and very convincing, to say the least.
So you said the jury is listening to her intently. We had talked before, and you said some of the jurors seemed like they were, a handful, seemed almost at one point like they were leaning towards Sean Combs' side of things. What are you seeing now as Jane is testifying, at least on direct?
I think they're starting to see a pattern here of the same behavior. And in fact, when Jane gave her testimony today, and she talks about seeing Cassie's lawsuit that was filed, he said basically it was a repeat of what she experienced. And I could tell that some of the jurors were leaning in as she's breaking this down, because it's really believable, her story.
What is Sean Combs doing as she's testifying?
He seems to be writing a lot of notes to his legal counsel. A lot of times he takes his glasses off like this and he puts it back on. I noticed today when it really heated up with the audio playing, he sat back a bit. So he's all over the place. I did notice he pulls out the chair for his lawyer and so forth. So he's very active today, but uncomfortable.
And, one thing that was kind of shocking, Mel, was the testimony that on her birthday, he wanted her to do a hotel night, and she did a hotel night with 3 men. And that's not how she wanted to spend her birthday. Did you find that testimony to be surprising?
Very surprising, because she also followed up that it made her sick. So she was physically sick to the point that she had to go to the doctor, and she kind of explained that graphically, which I won't get into that here. But it really affects everyone listening to the story, especially the jury.
Yeah, she said she actually physically vomited, which is she had sex with 3 men in one night. And, one thing that a lot of people have been pointing to is the fact that Sean Combs to this day is still paying her rent. She gets $10,000 a month, and that goes to her rent. Was there any courtroom reaction to that?
Everybody was shocked when they heard that he was still paying her rent. It was almost like when we heard that Cassie had won an additional $10 million for her lawsuit. So in the courtroom, you could hear the outburst when they said that Sean Puffy Combs was still paying her rent for $10,000 each month.
Yeah. Well, we are going to keep an eye on it. Mel Smith, thank you as always for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.